fuck down. What's up, brother? How you doing, Nathan?
Nathan.
I'm good. What was the Pete Grimm guy? Rather, was he the guy that was debating with Spurs yesterday?
Grimm? Yeah, he's like he's been around for a while too.
Because I quite like that conversation because it typified something that I've tried to describe, which is that, well, two things really. One is that you've got an explanation for a globe head, which essentially rationalises what he can see. So, but because he's got a coherent explanation that's been given to him by academia that makes sense, he's prepared to literally not stand there, but be on the panel and say, yes, I can see those buildings, but because I have an explanation for it, it's justified that I can't see them. That's essentially what he's saying. I can't see those buildings, even though I can. Here's the explanation. And he got more and more angry because and no doubt whatsoever that he recognises the cognitive dissonance. Maybe he doesn't, at a conscious level, maybe he doesn't, but unconsciously, he knows that he's engaging in doublespeak. He's saying, no, I can't see those buildings. Well, yeah, they're there. We can literally see them. No, it's Fata Morgana. It's like, well, okay, yes, that's a coherent explanation, but that's what I'm trying to say. That's something I've tried to describe as a sphere of bullshit that's sort of layered over the top of an obvious flat Earth proof. There's the buildings, we can see them. Well, no, here's the heliocentric smear of bullshit called Fata Morgana, and it makes sense to me. So I can't see them, but you can see them. There they are. It's like no explanation.
Yeah.
Around and round and round.
Yeah, but his argument is you can't see the bottom of them.
Right.
But in order to kind of like disprove the Fata Morgana, could you say? Oh, shit. Sorry about that, guys.
You're still.
You got a dog barking.
Yeah.
Trying to get stuck in, but barking.
Well, what it gets you is like.
Sorry about that.
Go on, Healthy.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, in order to disprove if it's Fata Morgana or not, could you suggest, like, if you could see that at nighttime, would that not be Fata Morgana?
I don't understand. Can you explain it? I don't understand what you mean if you can see it at night time.
Like, for instance, it's the Glover's explanation that it's a mirage, right? So basically, it's something that's there that they can visibly see, but it's not physically there. Would it still be the same thing at nighttime? Would you still be able to experience a mirage at night?
I don't know how you see the building at night.
Because, I mean, you can see the lights from the building at night, right? I
suppose if there's lights on it, yeah, dirt.
Because, I mean, that to me would be like, if I could see the lights come on and off at nighttime, then I would say that's not a mirage.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. It'd be worth checking it out, but it's one of them. You know, there's been plenty of explanations for how Fata Morgana. I nicked one off Good Times for All and mirrored it and stuck it on my channel. You know, he's explaining why you get that band, and he does it down this warehouse. I can't remember the exact number of feet, but hundreds of feet. And he's getting ever and ever further away from his target, which is a couple of paint cans with an A4 sheet of paper with 11 lines on it and numbers 0 to 10. And all he does is back further and further away and sees this band, you know, kind of converging and mirroring and doing all the stuff that we see at distance. Obviously, it's on a much smaller scale. And then he's only an inch off the ground. And when he stands up, it all comes back. You know, and we have the globe head explanation. Oh, well, why do all these bottoms of the buildings come back when you go up? It's like, well, there you go. This Good Times for All has done a really simple, small-scale experiment. Doesn't involve intercontinental travel and time lapses and processing stuff in computers. It's just simple, and it explains it perfectly.
There's something that explains that when you increase in altitude, you can see farther.
Because we're on a ball.
I thought that's what you just said. Sorry.
Well, that's what I like. Phuket Words video where he like does the thing with the table, and he shows like he puts the lines of he puts these sticks down, and he shows how you can see the distinct, you know, the separation, and then he goes down into the bottom of the table, and he shows how, you know, you're going to have obstruction even on a flat plane. I mean, he does it on a table, and this is exactly what we see when we're looking at this Earth. And also, it's like, I really think we covered a lot of ground last night. I mean, I almost want to use Jem's video that he showed about the scale of the Earth to prove that really there's no way that you're seeing a boat go over the horizon. Like they cannot, and this is why I think this is our crux, man.
He almost conceded that.
Yeah, and wasn't that huge last night, dude? I felt it drop. I was like,
Did I miss this? Shit.
Sometimes things like that happen, and Jen, I like Jen. You know, I know a lot of people don't, but I like Jen.
I'm the same boat.
To hear him go through that process and have you take him through it, he didn't actually say the words, but it didn't matter. You know, you had led him down a path, and once you had, you were jumping up and down and going, yeah!
Yeah. He forced them to accept it.
Yeah, and that's where I think once we can get, this is something I've been saying too, is like, look, instead of trying to prove how the sun fucking works, like, you know, I mean, I love that we're doing it in our circles or whatever it is, maybe. Like, those are things that need to be done. And, you know, Grimm should be talking about his stuff too. But in the grander scale of things, and you know, all I want is I just need my foot in the door, and the foot in the door is just give me that they're not going over the horizon. Because if they're not disappearing, that's huge for us.
Sun too, though, because he was also saying, well, the sun goes over the horizon bottom first, and I was the other end of this screen streaming. I was like, no, it doesn't. It does disappear bottom first, but it's not because of the horizon. It's not going over the curve of the Earth. I've got videos, several videos on my channel of the sun doing that in mid-air. You know, it's not doing it because it's going over the edge of the Earth. It's doing it because it's going beyond the vanishing point. That's it. It's not.
Yep.
It's not because it's going over the Earth. And if it's doing it in mid-air, obviously it's not doing it because the Earth's obstructing it.
Yep. Yeah, I you know, honestly, Phuket Words video. A lot of Phuket's videos are just amazing. And I point them to people, and I love one of his first videos where he did the gravity, and he's all serious, and he drops like the coin on the table, and like, I love that dude's approach, and it's guys like that I think that can, you know, possibly have a voice in that academic conversation.
Absolutely. What Nick does is shows every globehead who's got some crazy explanation, like Fata Morgana. You know, I can see it. No, you can't really see it. That's nonsense. What Phuket Word does, or Nick does, is says, here's a really simple experiment. So simple, you can do it with a couple of sticks, a couple of chopsticks.
Yeah.
You know, I said earlier, no time lapse needed, no intercontinental travel needed. He's done it where he stood. He's pressed record, put out a couple of chopsticks, and there you go. It's simple. And I like simple things. You know,
Yep.
it should be simple to prove where you are and how the world works. There are certain things that are going to become complicated. You know, when we're talking about inferior mirages, Fata Morgana, these inversion lines, all of this stuff is complicated, but it still does have a simple explanation. You know, people like Jeren are taking Globehead's footage like Red and going, there you go, here's how it works. I can repeat it. And then Nick comes along and does the same thing. Good Times for All does the same thing, but without water. You know, we're all replicating it over and over again. In the small scale, on the cheap. Doesn't cost much money.
Yeah.
It should be easy.
It's repeatable. It's repeatable is the point. And that's where they don't have that for us. And I started thinking this too, Nathan. This is something I almost feel like we need to get this going everywhere is, I want a notarized piece of paper from someone at NASA saying that they know that they went to the moon. I want it notarized, though, and I want whoever it is to be under penalty of perjury, and or else they agree that they you know, if they don't respond or they don't whatever, then they agree they never went to the moon. And if
They'll never do that. I mean,
well, no, but I'm saying then that becomes for us it's like court. If I say, Your Honor, I gave the gentleman enough time to respond, he didn't respond. Let the record show he didn't respond, therefore it's agreed that I win. Same thing with Flat Earth. Hey, you don't want to come under notary seal with this? Fine. Then that means you're lying, right?
now this is
You know, they're gonna say, well, I'm too compartmentalized, I'm too whatever. Fine, take whatever their excuse is and say, well, then how do you know what you think you know, asshole?
yeah. I just think we've been paying attention to NASA. I mean, I think they genuinely want us jumping up and down and pointing out that their stuff's flawed. Because how much response do we get out of them? Very little.
Right? No. The response, but check it. The reason we're not getting a response is like, and this is the thing, is that this brings it to the legal tire on the road matter of, wait a minute, we just want one of you to notary seal, because I would imagine the general public thinks probably any one of them over at these institutions would come under notary seal. But when they see that they won't, and they understand that, wait a minute, there's nobody that's going to vouch for this?
No,
if there's nobody, yeah.
No one would care because it's still on TV. And Alex Jones, this was on Mark and Patricia's Secret Show. They were talking about the fact that Alex Jones is in a custody battle over his kids in court right now. And sorry about the screaming.
No worries.
And the problem he's having is he's had to go into court and basically say, "That's not me. I'm an actor. That's not me. I'm not some crazy bonkers conspiracy theorist screaming down the lens."
Wow. Yeah.
So he's had to confess. Well, we all know this already. Everything we see on TV is bullshit. It's just a propaganda machine. That's all it's for. So to have somebody say, it's like asking an actor from Neighbours to go on court and explain that they're not doing what they're doing in that soap opera. It's farcical to assume that any NASA actor-naut will get in front of the court because they know they're actors. We know they're actors. The rest of the world, they're not going to have that illusion shattered. And
right, but that's why this is our foot in the door, though. It's their failure to respond that we can then show the general public. And then, it helps, like, because I think it's the kind of thing, like, where, well, because they're going to think, well, there's got to be somebody. Because think about it, this is where, like, lawyers and judges would turn around and say, well, there's got to be somebody.
And what loss?
Like,
I mean, to go to court, you've got to show loss. So what loss would you?
Well, why would my view of the world has been deprived of me. I have been lied to about the understanding of the agencies that have been taking advantage of my tax dollars. And therefore let the record show that, because you lied to me for 30-something years, you owe me this much money. And I started thinking my remedy for this is do it. Check it out. You'd have to do it privately. You could do it privately, and then you'd have to shut the fuck up after they paid you. But I think, Nathan left. Okay, good. But like that idea, cool.
You pissed him off.
yeah, right. But like I think that the foot in the door is what we need, and I think if we're actively, kind of pursuing that, I mean, I was kind of getting into this last night. Flat Earth has got to have an economic program with it because we're taking away their ability to monetize space. And if we take away their ability to monetize space, the financial
I think economics is the key. Like, I honestly think racism in the media, they promote this racism. I think it's a cover for class warfare. Like, they don't want us talking about rich versus poor. Like, I think that's more important. Economics.
Of course not. They have poor people fighting themselves while they worship rich people.
Exactly.
Calling each other broke. Like, everyone's dying and, just barely making ends meet. Oh, you broke. Like, as if there's shame in that where, like, then we sit and collectively worship these celebrities and athletes or whoever together. Like, oh, let's go watch them. And what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever see a show called Yes Minister? Ever heard of that?
Nah.
British show called Yes Minister, and he's explaining about the Irish problem, which I won't go into in detail.
And it's people being people, and it's I mean, that's why I love law, because humans are considered monsters. So it's like that's why we have to know better than to expect too much, but also be lenient. And my approach, but it's people being people. Like Healthy was saying, he saw it in the World of Warcraft. He saw it in every community that's out there.
Dude, you know what I did in World of Warcraft? I used to like give people gold or give people items, and then be like, "Check out 9/11 Truth."
Pretty awesome.
I was doing like
that's great.
Online activism. Because I was like, they're not gonna listen to me if I just tell them, but if I like give them like a bunch of gold, they'll be like, "Hey, this guy's cool. Okay, I'll check out this 9/11 Truth video or something." That was my idea. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting that you went around and wanted to actually wake people up, because the more time I spend in this arena, the more I think that it's an introspective thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I came to the conclusion as I grew into this. Yeah.
It's not going to benefit me to wake anybody up. In fact, quite the contrary. Trying to wake somebody up to, and I'm not going to even categorize it. I'm not going to say Flat Earth or 9/11 or anything. It's just trying to convince somebody of what I've discovered. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's pointless. You can put the information out, and people might come across it, but they will make their own mind up. I won't be telling anybody and there's a lot of people in our arena that like to tell people, this is how it is. You know, Pete Shea the other night, you watched the same show I did. Were you on that panel, Pete Mars?
Yeah, I think, or with Pete Shea tonight, with Barbie, Pete Shea?
Yeah.
Oh, I watched it. I wasn't on the panel. I watched it, though.
Fair enough. I mean, it's an interesting one because I really wanted, maybe Easter will do this now, we had an advertising campaign here in Britain 6 months ago maybe, and they had massive billboards with "it is illegal to use a legal name." Now, I don't know, I had this explained by the other Irish guy, Del Crooks, or however you say his name, Del, and he's explained it to me, and I asked Pete Shea to do the same. And what he did was took the opportunity to say, "Oh, I'm surprised you haven't looked into this." It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, all I'm trying to do is get him to actually illustrate it to the audience, you know, and instead he took the opportunity to say, "Oh, you don't know about it." It's like,
You're so good at that too, Nathan. You really are, man. Like, 'cause you know how to get it to the audience. I mean, shit. The Tracking the Sun brought me into this world, so I fucking love you for it. So, yeah, but yeah, he didn't know how to explain it. I imagine.
well, no, he did explain it towards the end, but after, you know, the audience attention was absolutely on Jed and his row and Arwen saying absolutely. So you end up losing this really crucial point, you know, that. And this morning, who was it? Dan Winfield, I think, got in touch with me and was like, "Oh, what's that about not being able to use a legal name?" I was like, "Oh God, that's exactly why I wanted him to detail it, so that the people who don't understand it get to hear it."
Yep.
It's frustrating because, like I say, you end up with an argument between Arwen saying, "Why have you let Jed in?"
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's sad because he's even said, you know, "I said I didn't want this." It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's introspective. You don't want it, Arwen, then go away. Be happy. You know, don't tell them.
He left the panel and then he just sat in the chat pouting. And it was like, if he would have just said nothing, he would have made Jed look bad. But instead, he made like himself look bad. I think is what happened there. And I don't know. I don't know. I guess Jed thinks. I agree with Jed's position that he came in when Pete Shea and them were discussing that no one died on 9/11. And Jed thinks that's ridiculous, so he wanted to stamp that out. I think that is a ridiculous thing that should not be said. So I kind of agree with Jed, but he was kind of an asshole about it at the same time. So I don't know. It's
just
I don't know
when
what to say,
launched
yeah.
into ad hominem attacks on Pete Shea, saying he's an old man and lives in a dirty house. It's like, again, you know, fair enough, you're saying he's got a good point. I don't know either way. I don't live in the States. I've not done loads of 9/11 research. Lots of people have told me about it. Frankly, I haven't formed an opinion. It's so tied up in conjecture. There's so much conspiracy around 9/11.
I could only imagine what it's like looking at it now.
Yeah. But I think it's better to attack the ideas than to do that. And he did attack the ideas somewhat, but yeah, he was throwing a lot of insults and it just makes him look. I don't think it does any service to his position, you know, when he does that. And I don't know, man.
Well, it doesn't do anyone any good when you're, you know. It's like I look at it like, okay, are you out here for you or for the ideas?
Sometimes I get pissed though, and I'll do the same thing. Like I'll call someone an idiot. You know, like sometimes when you're discussing, like I think I discussed stuff with Pete. And I called him dumb or something, you know, too. So.
It was funny last night in my chat. He was like, Issa, do you still want to punch people who think that nobody died on 9/11? And I was like, yes, Pete.
It does. Like, it does make me angry. So I can understand, and I can understand what Jed did, because when you're angry, you kind of lash out, and I do the same thing. So.
But why would it make you angry at Pete Shea? I mean, literally, he's one man. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know,
he said, because he goes around. I guess he goes around in a lot of hangouts, though, saying like no one died on 9/11, and you hear it a lot, and then
so what?
it builds up rage, and then you get on a panel with him, and you kind of blow up. I don't know, because that.
Like misdirected rage, you know, he's come to the conclusion the same as you that there's something not right, and his path through the complete shitstorm that is 9/11 truth, he's found his way to saying there's nobody who's died. Well, okay, you might think he's wrong, but he's still essentially telling people there's something not right here. And in the same way as you don't believe in flat Earth, but hearing the words flat Earth might be a trigger for you to look into some of the cosmology, some of the geography, whatever. But just hearing something that you fundamentally see as incorrect, the words flat and Earth put together in the same sentence, still triggers people to look into it. And it might be that Pete Shea saying nobody died, people will go, like you did, wow, that's absolutely outrageous, and then perhaps look into it and discover that, unlike what they currently think, it's box cutter knives and passports found on the, all that crap.
But the problem with that, though, is you wind up with you got to think everyone is on that thing where it's like consider the source. So it's like, okay, well, who's saying that? And it's like, well, if this guy thinks nobody died on 9/11 and the Earth is flat, well, fuck you. I got to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it's too much of an overload. It's too much of an overload, though.
I think there's these traps. Like I think the alternative media.
Hold on, Nathan. What are you saying, Nathan?
Sorry.
Can't hear you.
Tim Osman argument in there, which is to say that it's muddying the waters of flat
Well,
Earth.
for sure. No, I think there's a lot of traps in the alternative media, like saying Jews are responsible for everything because people are trained to think that you are a Nazi. And we live in this society where it's not you can't hate anything. It's bad to hate things, but you're allowed to hate like one thing, and that's a Nazi. So when you go and say, "Oh, Jews did 9/11, Jews are controlling all the media, the banks, and Hollywood," yeah, maybe there's some truth to that, but I don't recommend saying that to people. And
well, that's what flat Earth. It's like being like, if I came out there and was like, no, what's happening, right? Is there's a tree at the North Pole, and it's Mount Meru, and Mount Meru is it's like me like elaborating on this
right.
eccentric idea. When like this is what I've been pointing out last night. It's like, are we trying to explain the universe, or are we trying to debunk the model? And debunking the model is more. It takes precedent at the moment because we can't, nobody's going to listen to the conjecture when you still have a viable model in the Earth, in the ball Earth model. So you mess up the whole, or in my opinion anyway, when those things are brought in and they, it's like, okay, well, okay, because now, okay, George Bush had dinner with the Prince of Saudi Arabia and watched the Pentagon burning. That's much more of an did you know that the Prince of Saudi Arabia was having dinner with George Bush watching the Pentagon burn on the night of 9/11?
Oh, yeah,
that's much more poignant.
Yeah,
that's much more poignant than
Quigley,
fucking nobody died.
Carol Quigley, he talked about these roundtable groups, and he said he was a historian for these roundtable groups, and he basically came out in the book Tragedy and Hope. Carol Quigley mentored Bill Clinton. He said that the Soviets and the U.S. were working together. The whole Cold War was a sham. All the people at the top are working together. All the rich people are working together versus the poor people. And
right, but even that's hard to buy. They don't want to buy that either. They're like, oh, whatever.
I totally agree, sir. I think you're absolutely right. The energy should be focused on the perpetrators, the people who have led us into this position, not the people who've come to the wrong conclusion about no one dying. Yeah, absolutely, your anger should be directed at people.
How can you prove no one died? Why do you
that's what he's saying.
That too. I mean, I'm not going to say here and make people listening feel like I'm defending Pete in his opinion. I honestly don't know either way. Dave Weiss, when I spoke about it, said, to paraphrase Dave Weiss, his words were, I used to say nobody died, but now, after some investigation, there are people who used to be around that aren't around anymore. Now, he couldn't say that they died because he doesn't know what's happened to them. He just knows they're not there anymore. And that's how he phrases it. He thinks that's kind of fair enough. He hasn't got any proof that they're dead. They could be on some Hawaiian island for all that he knows. So he can just say, he can't say that anymore. And you think, fair enough. There's other people like Dave Murphy who would say, without a shadow of a doubt, I saw planes. You go, okay, fair enough. That's how you've seen it. and I'm not going to disregard anything people say, you know, unless they've lost all
Right, but
credibility.
do you hear? See, this is what they've done though: is they've got us arguing over invisible planes and nobody died, and not talking about the fact that the Prince of Saudi Arabia was having dinner with fucking George Bush watching the Pentagon burn.
Exactly, and I think no planes was like no forests on a flat Earth. Remember that video? It's like these videos come out like, oh man, that no planes video. It really caused a lot of division in the 9/11 truth movement, and the 9/11 truth movement got fragmented, went nowhere. Luke Radowski got accused of taking funds for 9/11 truth and using it to spend on his college and all that. So, I don't know, man. There's just like, lots of shady shit going on, and it's hard to trust, like, it's hard to know what to believe or what to trust. Like, the level of propaganda that we're under is mind-blowing when you really... I think studying propaganda is really important and learning how to discern information.
Beyond the imaginary curve out there. Word up. What's up, Bill? Bless, brother.
Yeah, figuring out how we're manipulated, you know, looking at Freud, looking at figuring out how propaganda is used is absolutely key. And often I will feel like, we've already said it in this panel, it's like we're here to have the waters muddied. Like we're here to put out crazy notions so that the actual truth that we put out is ignored by people who say, like Issa said, oh, well, if you think no one died and the earth is flat, then I'm off to work, forget this shit, this is nonsense. So yeah, I do think that this corner where we are right now is here as an echo chamber for bullshit. You know, that's how it seems. There's a lot of mistruth, there's a lot of nonsense, and there's a lot of conjecture. And no offense to Arwin, he's one of those people who does that. You know, more power to him, he's entitled to his opinion, but he will often say things like, I experienced this in a dream, or that's how I experienced it.
Oh, God, I want to smack people like that. I can't help it.
You know, I'm going to use his words.
Yeah, no, I can't stand that. Or like, you know, like, that's the thing. I don't know. It's like anything that's got any of us here, if you're legit, is that you're fucking, you've been saying that's not right for a long time. Yeah. Like, you know, you're like, nah, I don't buy it. It's like, you know, if someone's going to tell me about, well, you know, magical fucking rocks and shit like this, like, nah, bro, I don't see it like that. And I can't prove it. You can't prove it. It's like religion. I have my religion. I don't talk too much about it, but it's my religion, and nobody's going to argue me off of that. And you know, and it's not like, it's like when we start bringing in, well, oh, like, you know, instead of going to the Antarctic, we need to do astral projection. So everyone who can astral project, let's try to go to the North Pole and the South Pole. It's like, what?
Yeah, what a crap.
I can't do it.
That was exactly how I felt about flat Earth. I mean, when I heard those two words, when Matt Powerland said those two words together, I immediately went, yeah, absolutely, because I've seen it. I've travelled all over the world, and I've seen it. It's flat. And it was one, like you've just explained, something doesn't sit right with you. And the whole time I was travelling, I was going, this doesn't make any sense. You know, one of the first things I heard Morgile explain was about planes travelling in opposite directions. And I was one of the people stupid enough to be sat on a plane going, will the return journey be quicker? Why not? It doesn't make any sense. We're on a ball, aren't we? Isn't it spinning? This doesn't make any sense. And all those things that you put to the back of your mind, you come to flat Earth and go, that's why this didn't sit right with me. It's because it wasn't what I was experiencing. It wasn't what I was seeing. First-hand experience counts for a lot. And when you debate with people like Tim Osmond, and he's like, you what? First-hand experience? You can't take that. You know, we've got educators and professors to tell us. It's like, oh, I don't need telling. You know, nobody needs to tell me anything now. That's the one thing that flat Earth has taught me. I don't need telling. You know, I'll have a little look. You'll be a fool if you ignore overwhelming evidence. And in the case of the globe, and this is a point P. Mars made, the overwhelming evidence is absolutely stacked in favour of the globe. There is more evidence for the globe on paper. But that doesn't mean that when you go out and have a look that it actually stacks up. You know, but there is. If you're in a courtroom setting, the mountain of evidence, and this is something I know from going through court cases, it doesn't matter what the truth is. It's totally unimportant. All that matters is what's agreed upon, what is accepted. So if there's a stack of evidence 10 miles high for the globe and one shred of evidence that is absolutely factually true for flat Earth, the people in a consensus reality will accept the globe because that's where the evidence lies.
Right, but this is what's interesting about that thing, and this is why I say, like, yo, it's like, now let's say you've got a stack of evidence for the ball, right? But the thing is, no one's come under notary seal. And I stand there with my one little notary seal document saying that I've never experienced movement, and the earth looks visibly flat, therefore it must be. Well, an affidavit, unrebutted, is considered to be the truth. So these guys, they can have their stack of walls and, room full of paperwork. But the point is that if you didn't come under notary seal, if there's nobody that can experience what you're alleging, like, because when I look at the sun anymore, I can't think I'm spinning away from it or spinning from it. You know what I mean? Or spinning into it. Like, I see it moving over my head. And that firsthand experience trumps all that paperwork, in my opinion.
You don't think they'd just get some patsy to come under notary seal? Because I think they'd
Nope, they can't. And you could have them. There's ways to make that known that he doesn't know. And because then it's also look like this. It's compartmentalized. It works all in our favor because it's so compartmentalized. Their plausible deniability does not help them in a court of law. So their plausible deniability is going to be something where nobody can come in and verify what they're proposing, and you've got one lone flat earther with a notary sealed document saying, this is what I experience. This is what happens when I look at the sky. And it'd be like you said, the truth doesn't matter, whether their paperwork is right or something. I can't hear you, brother.
Damages, this is always going to be the problem. To have a case, you've got to say that
right, you have to have a claim.
And I think that in isolation, we're presenting the bigger picture. P. Mars is helping in this regard, for a change. It's a picture of deception.
What's that mean?
That you could absolutely take damages to. But the globe lie, I don't see any loss. That's why you have people come along and go, what difference does it make? It's like, well, you're not recognising the bigger picture. And this annoys me. Or say God. And it's like, no. The bigger deception, how we're controlled, how we are deceived, that is what is a result of flat Earth, but that's not a financial loss.
Oh well, I'm not trying to. Well, to put it with that, you'd have to have a direct, you'd have to have a party that you're actually going against. And my point is that, and not to, I don't really, I've been proposing this whole idea of understanding the way to discharge, because I think the economic platform of flat Earth could be, okay, give me a grant so I can teach everybody how to discharge people, as opposed to. Because flat Earth takes away the monetization of space. But in regards to a court case, that's another matter. But in this matter, the fact of our direct experience trumps their volumes of paperwork, especially for us. I mean, for me, I look at I experience flatness.
But that's not how it would work in a courtroom. So in a courtroom, they don't necessarily, they may at times, but they don't necessarily just go outside and get you to show them your direct experience. Again, I know this firsthand. What they do is they go through the paperwork and get...
Well, check it. Here's the paperwork. Is that I'm saying to NASA, I'm saying, hey, look, can you just come under notary seal, penalty of perjury, that you went to the moon, that you did this and that, the other thing. If you cannot come under penalty of perjury, then let the record show it is fully 100% agreed that my case has merit and you do not. And if they don't respond to the
circles, Issa, because
true.
The loss? What are you saying is your damages as a result of their action?
Well, that would no. If I were to go like this, I'd be like, look, you lied to me for 30 years. I want $10 million. And if you agree to that $10 million, look, if I send you a letter saying, hey, Nathan, I watched your house and made sure that nobody robbed it last year. You owe me 10 grand for it. And if you don't respond, hold on, check it. Check it.
You're saying you provided a service.
No. Watch. Listen, let me explain. I cannot wait till you come into court and make that claim. The point is that you're going to get my letter, and if I send you that letter, what would you do with it?
I totally understand it in this example because you're saying you've provided a service, right? And you can say that your loss is that you have exercised your time to provide...
No. Let's say like this. No. Let's say like just today, like right now, I sit down and write a letter saying, hey, Nathan, I watched your house for the last year. And made sure nobody robbed it. And seeing as nobody robbed it, you owe me 10 grand. Now, granted, I'm in the States. There's no fucking way I could be next there doing any work. But the point is that if I send you that letter, what are you going to do with that letter? Because if you throw it away and I send you another letter and then you throw that one away and I send you another letter, well, then I've got 3 letters that say that you agree you owe me 10 grand. Now, if I go and file a summons in the local area where you live and show the court that paperwork and your lack of response, You could come. I'm dying to hear you come in and fucking tell him how I didn't fucking come to the States and yeah, I know, but you're gonna fucking go all over the place with this one. And I was on the hangout when he decided he was gonna write the letter and and it don't mean shit because the court's gonna be like, well, the paperwork says you were fully.
Well, there was a question in there though. You said, what would you do? Well, I'll tell you what.
Ah, that's the difference. Yes.
So I get a letter from you. Do you know what I'd do with that letter? I would immediately return it to you, probably unopened.
Right, and if you did that, I would say, well, as long as it got to your mailbox, it's considered received. Let the record show your ignorance of the contents of the letter does not mean that you're ignorant of the price to be paid. Because
no. Because
well, this is where I mean I understand.
No, you're jumping the gun. So
go ahead.
Right on the letter is that I do not acknowledge you, I do not recognise you, that there is no liability, and there's no assured value in opening the letter.
Right, and I go
written on the letter. You'd have an explanation. You're saying, well, you've received it. Well, I'm saying, no, I haven't. It's written on the front. Return to sender.
Right. All right. And I would say, and now granted, would you have gone to a notary and sent it back?
Don't need to. I can just return to sender, which is what.
Right. And no, but that's the thing is that on my letter work, it says failure to respond on a notary seal agrees that your response is considered a defect on its face. So the thing is that because I've sent you the offer, whether or not you opened it, this is the problem about a lot of people don't understand about business or well, whatever, is that business is that your mailing address, like, and you're right to return to sender, but it's old school. Because remember that he who does deny admits. So if you say no, I can take that no and turn it into a yes merely by the process of law. And this is the discussion I've been trying to have because a lot of people fight me on this. And I've always said, well, we could just go to court then. Because if I get in front of a judge, I know how to move that court. And I know that if no one knows he who does deny admits, we're fucked. And that's where I'm saying this understanding, I think will help us deal with the regular people in our lives and it'll help us deal with this system. Because I agree with you. I mean, much like the DA, dude, much like the DA when I was standing there asking for a genuine accusatory charging instrument and his mouth was on the floor and the judge are trying to argue his case and I was conditionally accepting. She goes, I'll give you what you want. And she sent me the charging instruments. Regardless of his opinion about what he thought he was in there to do, the judge knew what was going on. And that's why you need that kind of pinnacle point of someone who does understand contracts because we can go back and forth all day.
But do you not feel like if this is the hydra that's described by Infinite Plane Society, that they fully have structured the court system in such a way that they're not going to get screwed by it? Wouldn't you agree?
Well, no, but it's again, this gets back to the who's the they, because there is though, that judge is impartial. And, and that, let's say the agency or whatever it is, the DA is the entity that is the representative of whoever the claim is against. That's why anyone who gets an attorney, that attorney now doesn't have any firsthand knowledge. All I've got to do is ask for...
District attorney is responsible to Congress and all the other...
No. Well, no, but not in that case. Not in that particular case is outside of all of the like this is, and this is the biggest misunderstanding.
Opened, but prior to that and in everyday life, they are subservient. Wouldn't you agree?
I kind of agree with Nathan here. I think... There's like fraternal orders within the lawyer field, and then they appoint the people they want.
Fraternal.
No, I'm not denying that. Look, I'm not denying that. But the point is that what care I? Because my point is that I have a claim, paperwork, and all of that stuff. And if you know how to exercise it, I have the inclination that we've become afraid of the one place that we can get our victory, which is court. And if it's part of that whole hydra is that you think we don't have this, where any of us don't have this power. And that when we concede defeat in our mind, then there is no victory. And it's when we understand that this, like almost, this is why I look at the shape of the earth like this. If you want to see the ball, you're going to see it. If you want to see the flatness, you're going to see it. And same way with the court. But like Nathan said, it's about that like the court could rule that it's flat one day and that it's a ball the other in two different cases. Based on the way that the agreement, like Nathan was saying, it's whatever that agreement of the parties is. But it's, that aside, I just look at it like NASA does not have anyone that's coming under notary seal. Not that I'm trying to go after NASA. I'm just saying, like, it seems to me as though I doubt whether or not you'd be able to get a notarized piece of paperwork anywhere out of NASA.
Well, what if NASA humors you and does sign this notary seal and says that they went to the moon? And let's say that after that you bring him to court couldn't they just deny everything, or like couldn't they like not disclose anything and say it was national security or something?
Right, but the issue, like, I mean, look, man, I helped a friend get money from a very big transportation department, and it's like, she'd done everything from protesting to picketing to everything, and then we sent my letter, and it was directed at whoever. You have to know how to direct it to the very person that you're dealing with, because it's like, okay, Jim, whatever your name is, it's agreed that you'll be liable. And that's the thing, is that all of them are operating in the capacity that they're just working for the state. It's not their responsibility, and they're licensed by the state. So, nobody wants to accept and hold the ball on that. Nobody's going to do it because they're just like, I was working. I don't know what you mean. I'm licensed to do it. Like, I think it would be quite interesting to try and get it. But they could. You're right, Healthy.
Yeah, but also at the same time, if it's just one person that can be responsible, it's just not possible for like a moon mission, that takes like a team. You have to hold everybody responsible.
Well, again,
I mean, I guess in that sense, I mean, I can see you putting NASA as the entity that you're going after,
Well,
but
check it. No, check it. It would be Jim Jones, CFO of NASA. It's not just NASA.
The
it's
head
like,
person.
No. I want the chief financial officer, because the chief financial officer is the one who he's the only one who can bind the company to an agreement. And that's why, the CFOs get paid as much money as they do. Because they're the only ones that have the authority to bind a company to a contract. And if he doesn't have any firsthand knowledge, well, it's not like, this is why I say we can't lose. Because they cannot respond the way that we're asking to, because we're trying to get them to bring, like their firsthand knowledge. But they don't have any firsthand knowledge. And it's like, it's catch-22 in the sense for them, because they're making a claim that they can't support. And it's not my fault that the DA or whoever the prosecutor might, or the defense, whatever it may be, their depositions aren't good enough.
But this doesn't matter. Robotham went to court, didn't he? Robotham went to court and lost.
Right, but he lost because of the technicality of not having a license to wager a bet. But they could have, what's his name, could have kept that money if they never took it to the court, because the only thing that messed him up was the licensing. So the court had to throw it out.
This is typical courtroom drama nonsense. And you say, wow, the only reason, it's like the amount of people who go to court and go, I would have won, but.
Yeah.
There's always something. That's my point.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I face it too, man. I had to learn. I've learned and learned and learned and learned, and that's why I've become so. I'm from what I've seen is what I've, and I wouldn't like, dude. I got $20,000 out of this out of a transportation department in 14 days. You know what I mean? Like, this shit is no joke to me, and like I've helped other people with different stuff, and it's one of the things where I think it's a little hidden remedy for us.
That's how you did it. Tell us what you got. How you did it.
Oh, I sent the letter. I just said, I sent to a friend. I was like, yo, look, you're going to write this letter. I said, it's like, so-and-so on this date, this happened. Let the record, like, dear Jim, whatever the fuck, this happened, and this happened. It appears you may owe me. And actually, she messed it up because I had it at $50,000 and treble damages should they seek formal resolution. And she didn't listen when I said, well, look, they're going to call you. And when they call you, just say, can't we let the paperwork handle it? Instead, she got emotional, had a conversation, and they offered her $3,000 at one point. And then, she got it back up to $20,000. But the point is that this thing was set up for $50,000. They called and played a legal game, but the thing is that the paperwork was too damning. And they knew that even if she didn't agree on that, or whatever it was in the phone call, that paperwork was damning. And that they can't hide that, the fact that, because if you send somebody something with notary seal and process of service and all that kind of stuff, they can't say that they never got it. They can't say that they never, you know what I mean? And that's what they eventually had to pay. Because, I mean, really, I wanted $150,000. I would have asked her for 20 if she'd have got it. But it didn't go down like that. But she got her $20,000. It took 15 days.
What was the score? I mean, can you not tell us what the situation was?
for her, it was her husband. It was something to do with workman's comp or something like that. I mean, she literally was like fighting to get this money for like 2 years. Like, and I only saw her on Facebook, like losing it. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, da, 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 and bitching and moaning. And I just messaged her. I said, hey, you want to try something else? Because she's like, they protested, went down city council, the governor, the mayor, the this, the that, the head of this, that, and all they're doing is just pushing her around. And I said, do you want to try something different? And this is how you're going to write your letter. She wrote the letter. Hey, it appears you did this, that, the other thing. What do you call it? And this, that, and you may owe me this much money. And if there's any problem with this notice, please respond under notary seal penalty of perjury, or else it's agreed that this stands as the facts. And then they called her up, and she started whining and reviling, and not talking about what I told her to say, which is, hey, that's like, because they're going to call and say, that's ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. We can only give you $3,000. Hey, that's okay. We'll just let the paperwork handle it. You know what I mean? Because should I seek formal? And it's just like, if they're not going to want to negotiate, then it's a dishonor. And if they're not coming under notary seal, they have nothing.
But everything so far that I've investigated, and that Grimm guy or whatever his name is, again, he gave a really good example of this, that you're always going to find some smear of some layer of bullshit that's already in place to make it go their way. And in the case of court, we haven't experienced that layer of smear of bullshit yet, but it's undoubtedly there. 500 years is how long they've had to do this. They own the courts. They will have smeared that layer of bullshit in there. And we'll, if it was to go to court, find something that we could claim loss over, and then it would just be, we would have won, but for the fact that the bet,
Well, check it. Also, it's about
Can I say something in Grimm's defense real quick? Because when I first met him, I thought he was kind of a dick, but I've got to know him. He says I can see where people think the Earth is flat. Like he himself investigated flat Earth, and I think he's a pretty smart guy. I don't agree with him about everything, but
no, Grimm's cool, man. I'm cool. Grimm.
He's really cool.
Me and Grimm are cool. Like last night, I was like, "Oh, fucking kick you off my." And then we're like, "Hey, you all good, bud?" We're like, "We're good." Yeah, Nathan, good. Grimm's cool.
That's a really good.
I wanted to say this though: if we can agree that they have, like, you're going to say they've owned the court systems, then we'd also agree that they operate on a higher karmic and just, like, there's a justice to what they do. And my opinion is that, all roads lead back to Rome. Pope put everyone on notice after 1215 when he got the agreements from the crown, and he sent out all the missionaries to give everyone, to serve people, legally serve them with the document of the Bible. That's why Jesus is called the offer. And so, like, and that said, like, I think if we understand that those are the terms of the agreement, and if we trust in ourselves and in this scripture, like, style, they have to comport with it, because it would be a violation of their deeper spiritual law of, like, that, if you want to look at it as some, like, Masonic something, that they have a code. We're just not operating it.
You guys in the States got taught about Runnymede in school, did you not?
Taught about what?
Runnymede. You talked about 1215.
Oh, no, we never learned any of that.
Oh, I thought you did, because it was on The Simpsons, and Lisa Simpson's revising for a test, and she's got this song, 1215 at Runnymede, the nobles and the king agreed.
Wow.
Right, but I assumed from that you guys in the States had it in your education system, but obviously
nope.
Case. Because we don't.
Yeah, no. This is alternative knowledge as far as, like, I know. I've never, I haven't heard anyone even say that the Bible was served like the way that I'm saying it. That's kind of really my own idea. When they talk about serving the Lord, it's like we're so wrapped up in language and so wrong that we're not seeing it as a legal service. You've legally been served, motherfucker. It's not like, that it's like, but you've been served with the offer of everlasting life and all the whatever. But at the same time, if all roads go back to the Vatican, and this is something I did that video of why NASA can legally lie. If you're going to come after them in the capacity as a U.S. citizen, well, you have no standing. you know, U.S. citizens or any really are not protected under the first 8 amendments of the Constitution. That's Maxwell v. Dow. And, you know, so there's no protection for, you have no, like, U.S. citizens have no right to get the truth from a government agency. Like, no right to demand it, but that's as a U.S. citizen. It's capacity that we need to get. And that's why I've been talking about the priority interest holder is kind of akin to saying, you know, the Son of Man. Do I not have dominion over the earth? Am I not a priority security interest holder in this particular issue, in this particular matter? It's not like some broad sweeping general, like, oh, everybody knows that. Like I was talking about this earlier. It's like if a lawyer wants to bring a certain penal code into his case, he has to write it into his brief. If he does not put it into his brief, the court will not interpret it as part of the reading of the law. Because it's not the judge's responsibility, it's the attorney's responsibility to put the law to the contract. All those penal codes and all that stuff are outside of the contract until the DA brings it and puts it in his brief. You can't, it's not just like a general setting of rules. It's like by you putting it into the case, that's what makes it a part of the case and makes it law. Law can be said to be equal contract. They're interchangeable. The law of the land, the contract of the land. They're interchangeable. It's really, I mean, for me, it was the thing that actually made me like almost see the viability of flat earth, because I was like, of course, everyone's reading it wrong over here regarding law, thinking they have no power when really they are the pinnacle of power. And in the same way, I was like, okay, and then on the ball, you know, it makes sense that, wait a minute, yeah, they lied about that too. And that it's really flat. And anyone who's going to believe the myth...
Isa, just to explain what you've just said, because you've just said people don't understand that they're not powerful when in fact they're the pinnacle of power. Well, that's a powerful statement. But I want people to understand what...
Yes, we certainly. The pinnacle, the example I've used is in the United States with marijuana. The federal government has marijuana illegal. The states have decided, some of them, to make it legal. There are counties within those states, like Colorado, that do not allow the sale of it. Where it's a recreational in the country of Colorado, the counties have more authority over the state, which would lead one to believe that the individual is then the next step in the chain of command. And what we're doing is Descartes put it like this, as some have been saying quite a bit. Descartes, who's also one of the, you know, philosophical founders, if you will, of, you know, the U.S. idea, is he said, I think, therefore I am. Well, that implies that he who does not think is not. So this is like a thinking man's game. And if anything can be said of the Masons that we've learned, is that they understand what it is to be chased by the masses with pitchforks. So they understand that the thinking man needs his day in court. And if we were to come in and understand the capacity that we're going in, it's like when the court says, "In God we trust," in the walls here in the U.S. And if you go in, they ask you to swear on the Bible. But if you swear on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, you just prove to everyone in the court that you've never opened the fucking Bible. And you're in a room that fucking respects the Bible. So there you're immediate, because the Bible says swear not by heaven or by earth. So if you're going to swear on the Bible, you're saying you're full of shit. You don't know you've never read the Bible, you don't believe in God, and you're a fucking liar. So why the fuck would they give you anything? And you come in that capacity as the general public, and the court has full jurisdiction over you, and it decides. But if you understand who you are, and you're there, and you understand how to conduct the business, they do not have the authority. It's like when I was standing in front of the judge asking for the, you know, charging instrument, and she threw me out of the courtroom, and then she cleared the court, you know, she did everything with all the people there. Then they brought me back in, and she said, "How are you going to plead?" And I said, "Is there any threat of contempt?" And she was like, "No, no, 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 no." And I go, "Well, then I conditionally accept the offer on proof of claim. I'm not the priority security interest holder, you know, going in." And she goes, now. She goes, "It appears you would like to see the charging instruments." I was like, "Yeah, for set-off, settlement, and closure." She goes, "I'll fax them right over to you." but they didn't want to give them to me fucking 2 times before. I had to fight the shit test. It's like you know, friends of mine in Marines, and they said when you're going through boot camp, the whole time they're like, dude, you're a pussy. You don't belong here with us. You're not a warrior. You're not a man. You know, your wife's probably home banging some fucking mailman, dude. You should go home. You don't belong here. And the whole time you're trying to, you know, you have to fight for your right or to prove that you are what you think you are. And and that's why when when those gentlemen get there, you know, they finish that boot camp, it's so, you know, they want to cry when the guy who told them the whole time that they didn't belong there is pinning the fucking whatever, you know, whatever they're getting, you know, or like addressing them and giving their, you know, like they get their graduation.
It sounds like you're describing trauma-based mind control as a positive thing.
I'm describing it as that's what they've got. I'm just describing the system. Now, I don't try to justify any of it morally, because that's a whole nother, you know, bag of wax, you know, ball of wax. But if we want to understand how to get out of this, you know, this Gordian knot, then we're going to have to do it with like high intelligence. It's not going to be like it's not going to be thrashing. You know, like a Chinese finger knot, you know, like one of those finger things where you put your finger trap. You know, the harder you try to pull your hands apart, the more it's going to hold on. So when people are thrashing about, like, we've got to fight the government, it's like you're just making it you're just, you know, it's like quicksand.
One thing I think about, like, I look at the propaganda, and what are they sort of getting us to focus on? Like, pretty much sex, money, drugs, you know, fast cars, like all this shit. So, and they're also
it's elitism.
Yeah, they're getting us to kind of focus
escapism.
on being selfish and not care about other people and all this stuff. And I think morality has been under attack for years, and being a good person is important, and that is a way to actually fight back against the system. Like the family unit, like we can argue like Christians are under attack, you know, this group is under attack or that group is under attack, but we all have families, and the family unit is freaking under attack, and I think we can unite under that umbrella.
I agree with 100%.
What's that, Shannon?
I agree with them 100%. You know, this whole third wave feminist movement, it's kind of just to, you know, get you away from the family, taking care of your kids kind of thing. It's just, you know, you can be an empowered woman in other ways, but if you don't raise your kids yourself, you're letting the state raise them.
Yep.
If you let the state raise them, they have their own agenda.
That's it. And don't be mad when they don't ask you for advice.
Yeah, you wonder why your kids are like acting like assholes.
They'll get it from a reality show.
They grow up on MTV and all this shit.
Well, no, and then
and
you
they're
got like
trained
these
to rebel by the system.
and you got the parents. The parents are chasing they're like, I never did anything for me. Man, well, dude, you had a kid. Your life's over. Shut the fuck up.
And I think it's weird, like, how our culture in America will put our parents in old people's homes and kind of, like, ignore them and stuff, where in other cultures, like, it's normal for the like, in Japan, I think, don't the parents,
Yeah, no, most other cultures
take care of the parents. Yeah, that should be like normal. Like it's weird. We like kind of separate. The elderly are in homes, the young people are in school, and then we have the working class, and like all these age groups are separated.
I almost think what they're trying to do, bro, is get us to a state of depression where everybody literally wants to kill themselves. And then when they can get everyone down to that realm, it's like because they can't kill you. But they can make shit suck so bad enough where it's like, you know, you could just kill yourself. You know, and now, like, I mean, even like I had, you know, like I was with one of the young.
No, but there's a solution. We have this pill that will make it so you don't feel sad.
There you go.
You don't feel happy either, and you just feel like a zombie all the time.
Right, and and that's what I'm saying, dude. Look at it like this, bro. We live in a system of where like 80% of the population is like that. Therefore, it's like when the judge saw me. She was like, holy shit, somebody that's thinking. It's like I haven't seen one of these kind of people in so fucking long. Like, thank God, maybe there is hope for our republic because there are thinkers out. I mean, this, like, she showered me. Like, once she realized I was not joking, and that I was like, no matter how much you throw me in the hole, no matter how much you fucking do whatever you're gonna do to me, it's like, you know, I'm on that shit. Like Patrick Henry, man, is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased by the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God, for I know not what others may do, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. I'm not fucking, you know what I mean? And like, you know, they throw me in the hole, do what you got to, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, dude. Take me to the judge, because I know I'll get my victory with the judge. Because just like, and this is the thing, it's an inverse thing. Everyone thinks judges are evil. It turns out judges may be the smartest people on the fucking planet. In my opinion, anyway.
But that's because we're all judges. You know, your judgment is what matters. Your conclusions and your acceptance of whatever you encounter is all that matters. So you are your own judge.
Yep. And that's the thing, though. Can you be can we be honorable judges, and can we know how to walk? You know, like it's I mean, you're 100% right, and that's where we're in. But once, you know, it's the decorum too. It's like in regards to court or public policy and all stuff like that. It's all this protocol. We've got to know the republic side of it, you know, the natural rights of man and all this stuff like that, and understand the protocol of all the other stuff. This is where I come into conflict with a lot of guys, because they're like, "Oh, fuck the protocol because of the rights of man part," but they're woven together, man. You know, I read Khalil Gibran, the prophet, and he said, "He who would seek to root out evil, you know, go to the root, and there you will see how evil is intertwined with good. And you'll realize that you cannot get rid of evil without destroying the whole tree." You know, they're interwoven. And it's almost like our opinions don't matter. This is just what it is. That's why I've always said when people are like, "Oh, the government did it," I'm like, "Cool, go write a song." You know, that's what, like, you know, don't complain like all the time. James Allen, I read that. It's on my channel. I did a reading of that. And it's, you know, only when a man ceases to whine and revile does he begin to seek the hidden justice which regulates his life. You know? And I mean, I don't know what we're going to do collectively, but I think individually, each one of us can be as free as we want. I mean, shit, I was at the side of the road, I had a joint in my ashtray at one time, and the fucking cop is sitting there talking to me. Joint is stinking up the we're looking at each other. The joint's just stinking up the thing. And we're talking about, forgive me, is there an emergency? And he couldn't, you know, he has to get jurisdiction. They have to get all this protocol. I mean, I've been studying this for a long time, and I almost probably dance around it too quick for anyone who may not, like if I haven't, you know, broken down some things. But it's weird because you need to have a paradigm of all the sovereign man, whatever. And then I came to the revelation that you had to drop. It's like unlearn everything you just learned.
Yeah, that guy the guy Barbie spoke to, Stephen, said he had a mental dump. He just chucked it all out. And I kind of, at the time, I thought, well, I haven't chucked everything out. But there's a lot of things I'm hanging on to that I don't really need to. I can come back to them and look at them at another time. But just because somebody says this is a fact doesn't mean that I have to accept it. And that's back to your own judge. Your judgment and acceptance is all that matters. You know, the established, what do they call it? The mainstream story. There's a word for it. This is Tim Osman uses it all the time. This is the mainstream story or something.
Right.
Well, when it comes to that, just because everybody else has accepted it doesn't mean you have to. It's the lemmings over the cliff thing. Just because the lemmings jump over doesn't mean you have to.
Yep. That's what it's about. Even thinking.
Can I say something real quick, Isaac?
No. Sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah, you haven't talked enough. My bad.
I know. I never.
No, I'm just kidding. I love it, Isaac. I'm just kidding. Shit. But
Can you not interrupt, Ethan?
Yeah. No.
I ruined it. Shit. What were you talking about again? No, I totally forgot. What were you saying, Nathan?
Go get coffee.
Oh, you like don't question what we're told type things. I went back and looked at cartoons and TV shows I watched as a child, and I thought about how it was trying to influence me as a way to deprogram myself. I thought about, oh my gosh, all this music has got like subliminal messages, so I stopped listening to music and I started listening to like 8-bit and 16-bit video game music, and then like I went crazy for a while. And there's like famous internet meme where it says like trust no one, not even yourself. And I think there's a kernel of truth to that. That's why it's funny, because we've been so brainwashed. It's hard to know 100% anything, I think. And
Well, I love that Al-Hazan quote. You know, the scientific method of being an enemy of everything you read, even yourself, so that you don't have a prejudice, you know, when we're reading these people. And also, I think that comes from self-worth. Like, you know, again, it gets back to the idea that we have to think we can win before we ever can. If, like, when I meet people, and or it's like, you know, it's like a guy who sees a beautiful woman. And it's like, you know, he's like, wow, like, you know, sitting there with his friend. And it's like, you know, wow, I'm going to go say hi to that girl. And then it's like your friend is like, no, don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, or better yet, if you're like to your friend, hey, go say hi to that girl. You think she's cute? Go get her. You know what I mean? He's like, no, I could never get her. She's out of my league. Well, right there, now you're right. You're exactly right. You'll never get her, and she's out of your league because you don't want to go and be in an uncomfortable zone. And be honest. And it's weird to me, even like musically, I think of it like it's when we're the most vulnerable that we're the most universally understood.
Did you guys hear my transsexual spectroscopy example?
No. Go on now.
I came up with this off the top of my head. You'll have to excuse all the kids' toys that are going off in the background. Right, so I can't remember who it was. It was in the Earth discussions, and they were talking about spectroscopy. And I said, okay, fine. So let's pretend for a moment that you've got a telescope and you're looking across a bay. You know, you're doing one of these long shots proving flat Earth. And what you see in your telescope at the other end of the lake or whatever is what appears to be a woman. So it's a person in a dress. Yeah, you can see it, you can study it, you can look through your telescope at this quote unquote woman. Now, based on what you see, would you stake your life that woman hasn't got a dick?
What the fuck did you just say?
I'll explain it. So with your spectroscopy, let me explain. Laughing, it's good. It's good to get that. So you're looking up at the stars. What they're saying is we have a look at the stars, and we decide based on the colour spectrum that we see what gases it's made up of and what it is, even right down to what's at its core, right? But they're not going and having a little look. So they're staking their life on what's in their field of vision through their equipment. And I'm saying, right, okay, let's use that example differently. I'm looking through my equipment at something a long way off, and it looks like this, a woman. But are you prepared to stake your life on it? Well, absolutely not. Until you go over and actually check that person out, you don't know what they are. Could be a guy. You don't know until you go and confirm and check. But with spectroscopy, they're saying, we know what they are. We've just had a little look. So they're saying the sun's, you know, definitely not got a dick. That's what they're saying. Or the stars.
All right. I get what you're saying. I don't know. It's something that works on Earth because they can test it on Earth, right? They can, they take light from objects and they can determine what the composition.
Love it. Glad I led you beautifully.
Shit, I fell into your trap. Damn.
Of course. So you can look at the woman's dress and you can say, based on the colour of her dress and the shading of her eyes, because I can replicate them at this end, I know whether or not she's got a dick. Is that what you're saying?
I concede this argument. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know, man. I don't.
Always get your point across with humor.
I mean, I'm not one to really give answers to this. I just know the like, layman shit. Like I know like spectrometry works. Like they take examples from light readings on Earth, and they can tell the composition based off the light something gives off on Earth, and then they apply that to celestial objects. That's what I know of that.
Okay, so what I do is I show you this woman at the end of the telescope, and then I line 6 women up in front of you here on this side of the lake. Yeah, that's right. It's a good example, isn't it, hun?
So at this side of the lake, you can test all of the women. You can touch them, you can look at them, you can smell them. Would you now say that she hasn't got a dick at the other end of the lake? Because you've checked the women at this side out.
Shout out to Eleanor.
She definitely doesn't have a dick. I like violence after these sorts of examples.
Yeah, do you think
That's
it's
right, yeah,
do you think
I
it's
don't know.
crazy
Nice,
that we can
man.
measure?
That's awesome with that.
Do you think it's ridiculous we can measure the
My
weight, the
was,
mass?
have you heard that? So now you've heard it. Do you like it?
I like it.
Stunned silence from everybody. As they
Yeah. I think you floored. You even floored P Mars.
It's hard for me to follow that
Love it.
metaphor.
Oh, forgive me 1 second. Do that.
You know what? I'm going to make an escape on that note. I've drawn so much silence from the panel with that example. That
Yeah.
I'm
Right
sorry,
on,
I've been
yeah.
awake for like 62 hours, so I wasn't really following you. If you'd
It's
like.
pretty late.
I'd love to.
Oh man,
Hi,
Eleanor is cute.
Oh, babies.
Nice, man. Beautiful.
Right, I'm going to duck out. Thank you very much for having me.
Dude, Nathan, good to see you, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.
Bye.
Forgive me, we're all sleepy and shit.
Yeah,
You escaped us.
See you later.
Yeah, peace,
Have a
brother.
nice day.
See you, Nathan. I just don't know enough about spectroscopy or whatever.